I'm so happy that they included the adapt or die line that is me screaming it.
Adapt or die!
That felt right for the character.
What are your thoughts on Viper and Vyse's relationship?
All will be revealed in time, I believe. I very quickly discovered games is where I can make my mark. Games is where I belong. The first moment that I had that, holy moly, I'm actually doing it, was when I was doing mocap for Destiny 2, The Witch Queen. On Steam, I have over 1,000 hours in Destiny 2. That's not counting the time before Destiny 2 came to Steam.
How insane is it for you to be a part of the Five Nights at Freddy's world?
Insane is the right word. I already wrote out a response to say I'm not going to audition for Gregory because that's just not my thing.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to Behind the Voice. My name is Abhi. I'm joined by the incredible Marta Svetek, who you might know as Roxanne, Gregory, Vanny in the Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach and the Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted 2 as well. But recently, she also played Vyse in Valorant, which is announced recently. So thank you so much for joining and making it to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me. It's very exciting.
Yes.
I'm excited about everything. I'm an excitable person.
Oh, that's amazing. I have to say, again, we touched upon this a little bit before, but even though you said that you don't really have it's a whatever backdrop, but I love the armor set. I love what I think it's a katana. I don't know. I could be absolutely wrong.
Yeah. I like swords. I like medieval weaponry. I like fantasy weaponry. So there's I move my chair ever so slightly. There you go. So you can't really see it, but that's like Gimli's axe from Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
That was the first thing I've ever collected when I was 14, and I've got Hadafang, which is Arwen's sword, conveniently right above my screen, so you can't see it. So there's quite a few interesting items in my office, so to speak.
Wow, I love it. It's so cool. You said it gives that medieval feel, and I love the medieval items. I can never collect them, but I love to see them. It's always really cool.
We can have show and tell another time.
Yeah. yes. You posted one thing on Instagram. It was really cool because you went to BAFTA Game Awards earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a beautiful outfit. I love that. And, it was really cool I watched the show live. It was such a fun show. How was it for you to go to BAFTA Game Awards to experience all of it?
Yeah, amazing. It was my second year going. So it was the year prior as well. And what I love dressing up. And I'm not talking about fashion, whatever. I don't care about trends. I just love people expressing themselves visually.
Yeah.
And the BAFTA Games Awards are so fun because people go all out, but they go all out in a real gamer nerd way. So you see so much exciting stuff that people feel good in. They're not trying to fit a certain dress code. They're fitting the dress code, but they're making it their own. And there's this sort of appreciation license to do that. So it's just the first thing, just when you arrive, that feeling feels really, really nice. There's also, not that snobbery that you can have at certain other events. I think people are very down to earth, and we're all there because we're fans of the same thing. Yes, we get to make the thing, but first and foremost, we're fans of the thing. And there's this sort of, genuine excitement about all of that. And you know what? BAFTA really know how to put on an award show. It is produced and organized to a T. Everything runs on time. Everything's just, organized, but not too complicated. So it's, so people actually have the chance to move from one area to another. You can imagine just getting everybody into the theater can be a production. Especially when so many people are seeing each other for the first time, maybe in years. Some voice actors are meeting the developers they worked with in person for the first time. So it's an amazing feeling. Everybody's super supportive. Everybody looks amazing. And I hope I get to go next year because it's a fantastic evening. And I think finally sort of an adequate game centric, not marketing centric, game centric celebration of achievement in games. Like I absolutely adore the BAFTA Games Awards. They are really worth everybody's time to watch.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. What you said about it's not marketing centric, it's game
Yeah.
centric. I love that because that's you see you get all these people that are being represented, giving awards, celebration, all of that is happening, and you see that's it. That's all you see, and that's the celebration of video games and people who worked in games, and it's amazing. It's awesome, and watching every year is so cool. The only cool thing that happened this year actually was when BAFTA Games on Twitter followed me back. I was like, why did they accidentally click the follow button? I've been thinking the same thing. So
you're doing all the right things. You're doing all the right things. You know, you're part of this industry by doing what you do. So, you know, BAFTA, I really applaud them for being so inclusive. They really have worked on doing that. Like we're in a time where there can still be a lot of gatekeeping in this industry. I think they're the ones that are really opening those gates for a lot of people and who they partner with, and you know, helping get people connected so they can get into the industry. I'm not speaking from a performer standpoint. I'm speaking from like a developer, whatever you want to do. You know, they host these networking events that are really, really very useful, and they've done a lot to let the general public understand more about the games industry, at least this side of the world.
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a lot of respect for what they've done so far. Obviously, more can be done. But, you know, sometimes you do have to just stop and appreciate how far we've come.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're right. And yeah, BAFTA is always, and it's so cool. They have that name, and BAFTA is actually something.
Yeah.
It's like it's very important, and I love every aspect of it.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking organizations, I need to drop this little name here because I think they're also incredible. Limit Break mentorship scheme. They are doing groundbreaking stuff.
Yes.
Like it's really something special. But yeah, so go check out Limit Break.
I love it. That's really cool. Yes. It's all awesome, like how things have been developing and new things are coming up and new things are starting to grow up with everything connecting in a certain way and one thing helping the other. Like it's really cool to see things growing all together, and it's really cool to be a part of the video game industry in this way, and to be in part of like more in acting industry in general, to you know how it's branching out all the places. One of the recently I saw one short film that you were part of, which was Metal Heart, which has been out, and you voiced a character. It was all done inside of an Unreal Engine for the first time. I think never done anything in Unreal Engine, and he did it. How was it like for you to be a part of that project?
So Aaron is actually a very, very good friend of mine. So like such a good friend that I would say he's family. So you know, I had been there when he started learning Unreal, and sort of just decided to dive in. And of course, when he asked me would I voice this for him, which is a short film that started from a single scene that he just decided to make just for fun, just to see, like, just to try out a few techniques. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to make this into a short film, which is just how he does things. And just an amazing person. But yeah, because I know Aaron so well, it was just literally just a back and forth. It was so grassroots. I've got my booth right here. You can't see it, just off camera.
Wow.
And so it's literally, he'd like text me lines like, hey, can you record this line? I'm like, yeah, okay, I need this slightly differently, you need this read this way. I'm like, okay. And then I was coaching him because he voices the sort of the main character. And I was like, then starting to sort of nitpick at his performance, because the other person that is also a friend of his, that is in that short is David Hewlett, who people might know from Stargate Atlantis and from The Shape of Water and from so many other things. He's a legend. So, you know, For me, it was almost like, no, I need to measure up to David's performance. I need to, this is not. I know we're just friends here, but there's something about there is like, you almost out of respect for
Yes.
somebody who's achieved so much, that you get to be heard alongside. It was just really fun and really, it was a nice change of pace after coming out of a period of a lot of very serious, very like intense work. I was like, I get to do this for fun.
Yes, that's so cool. I love watching that. I was somewhat dabbling around in not Unreal, but somewhat dabbling around in like animation and stuff. So I was like, I cannot do that at all. But like, it's just so cool to see how it all looks and how it all feels. It is really great. I love action-packed stuff, monsters, all of it.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
I just, it's exciting. If you're in games, you're going to love kaiju.
Yes.
There's a
Kaijus.
very good chance you're going to love kaiju. You're going to love things that are larger than life, giant robots. Yeah, I appreciate it. I also, outside of acting, still sometimes work with certain visual effects companies and things like that, visual effects software companies, which is a remnant of what I did prior going into acting, which I just can't leave. I can't leave it alone. It's something I'm also passionate about.
Oh.
And so, even by osmosis, I get to sort of understand how much work goes into something like this. And I am frustrated for the artists when you see like PR for projects, especially movies or TV shows, where like usually a lead actor is misquoted saying this.
Yes.
But just that headline of like, this was all done practically, this was all done, no CG or anything. I'm like, it's not true. This is not true. Even in rom-coms, they do background replacement. Just stop it. Just give credit where it's due.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that. That is one of the things that I remember Alien Romulus came out and it was all about, it's all done practically, which it is. But there's a lot of things that are not done practically. I can see when I'm watching. Yes.
The final shot is not all practical. Like if they left it all practical, then it would have been, people would have been complaining that it doesn't look good.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of complaints and all that stuff, which I hate. I'm like, you guys just don't know the story. So
don't know the struggle.
Don't know anything.
Hours and hours of work these artists put into these projects, and then be sort of invalidated like that. Like it's a bit like, come on.
I don't nowadays. I don't jump into those conversations because I get like so fired up. Like, what am I doing? I should leave. Let them fight.
Just breathe. Count to 10. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Let's just get out. I gotta say, like, you recently, obviously, let's talk about Valorant, and you played Vyse in that game. A lot of people are playing it. It's a very unique character. I love the look and the feel of it. It's so cool. I feel like, I'm very much attracted to sort of villains, but like someone who is like, taking everyone by surprise. So how much were you aware of this game Valorant when you're getting into recording this?
I mean, I was very aware of Valorant. I was aware of how big it was. I had not really played it before all of this. I had dabbled with it, but there's one caveat. There's something that's still, even now that I'm trying more, that I'm finding really difficult to get past. And this is a skill issue entirely. Any other FPS that I played, and I play games all the time, okay? I love playing games. But every other FPS that I've ever played, if you stop moving, you're done. You're shot in the face. Here, you have to stop and shoot. And you think like something simple just takes a little bit of practice. But for me, it has been so difficult to get past that muscle memory of having to move, having to slide in and shoot, and you know what I mean, like constantly be on the move, and now having to like stop and shoot. Otherwise, there's no chance of hitting. It's that part I'm still struggling with. But yeah, no, I was very much aware of Valorant and how huge it is. And yeah, it's just still crazy it's crazy to say that I'm in it.
So cool, right? Like it's so
It's
awesome.
so cool. It's so cool. Like
Yes.
I like, when I found out that I was gonna be in it, I went to my agent, like all caps. Even when I found out that I was auditioning for it, all caps. There were no lowercase letters. I was like, this is, I'm so excited that I'm being even given the chance to have a go at this character.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, Valorant is such a huge game, and it's all over the place. Like every single
Mhm.
country, Valorant is up there. And I'm curious about like how was the audition process went? Was there what did you get to do in that audition?
Mm.
That I know that when you do the audition, you have sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's much longer when you get the call back. So do you remember what you had
Yeah.
to do?
So without getting in too much detail, because I'm not sure how much I can actually say, it was a long process. I can say that it was a long process. We started last year, um, and it was many stages. And the first stage, I had no idea, and they wouldn't say what game it's for. I mean, I asked. I was like, because normally what you see, at least in the NDA, you will see what company
Yeah.
who the developer is, and then usually from that you can kind of figure out it's probably this.
Yeah.
But no, it was all very secretive. So I'm auditioning for this thing. I'm doing my thing and following the instructions. And after the first one, it I think it was a couple of months, and say they want to hear back. I can't quite remember which stage it was. It was because there's several. But between two stages, there were several months. There was like nothing. Didn't hear anything. And at that point I was like, I probably just, didn't get it. They eliminated me in that round. So I'll just at that point I still didn't know it was Valorant. So, it was kind of like it'd be a mercy if I was eliminated, because I wouldn't know what I've lost.
Yeah.
And they were done because Riot are obviously in the US. This was recorded with a third party, audio company called Liquid Violet, who are amazing to work with. Sorry, a little tired voice. But yeah, so yeah, I was just like, yeah, okay. I had already moved on with my life. And the other thing that was really nice is that these sessions were with the person who ended up being also the voice director for me for this, Kirsty Gilmore, who I go way back with. She did my second ever game reel. Like she was
Oh.
still a game reel producer back then, game voice reel producer back then. I was just getting started. We had met at some networking events. She was always really cool. We're like, I like you, I like just kind of like connected. And then to come back into the room and be there with her was just, even the Riot team commented how like she and I could speak really freely about everything. There didn't have to be. There's always professionalism, always. But there is a certain rapport that was already there. So yeah, so all of a sudden, I get the email from my agent. It's like, oh yeah, no, they'd like to see you back. I'm like, wait, oh yeah, it was that one, right? Okay, I come back and the thing. And then they tell me, and I had a mini meltdown in the booth, just compose myself. It's funny to me because as a lifelong gamer, and not somebody that has to tell everybody, look at me, I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
And who maybe as I'm getting older doesn't necessarily appear like somebody who is a gamer, like to the extent that I am, to the extent that I do spend time playing games. They get a lot of voice actors into the booth. They're there for their acting ability, but a lot of them won't realize what, like, the significance of what they're working on. and so they're it's nice because they get excited that I'm excited. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of them get like they're really genuinely very happy when I do realize, because they care. They spend so much time working on this. They it really means a lot. And so to be able to be then working together with people, like people that are equally excited about something, working together, that results in good things.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so we went through various stages. We had exploratory sessions. They really, really, really care about getting the character right. And to me as an actor, that is such a privilege to have that time. To have that time with them, to have that time with Kirsty, they have that time to come to a mutual understanding and have this collaborative process to define who this character is. You know, and I was able to share some of my own life experiences that were relevant to the personality of this character. And for sort of like, this is, I'm not commenting on the lore here. This is more, you know, you're not going to have direct experiences with every character you portray, but there
Yeah.
can be certain emotional parallels between what you went through for something versus what's happening to the character. Because at the end of the day, you just come back to sort of this nature that we all tend to have. And so yeah, having that time, I think, made a whole lot of difference. And they really, like I say, they really care about getting this right. And they're willing to spend the time getting there. It's not just walk in, read a spreadsheet,
Split shit. That's the one.
spreadsheet. There we go. I speak for a living, and I can't even say that. Yeah, spreadsheet. And walk out. And a lot of games can be like that. It's not because they don't want to spend an extended period of time
Yeah.
workshopping, but often there's budget constraints. You know, it is the hire of the studio, the hire of me, everybody that has to be there to be present in the session to make sure everything is read in a way that fits into the narrative of the game. So yeah.
Oh.
It's a big process.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of hours on it, but you know what? It was not a hardship. Not in the slightest. And I mean, make no mistake, I'm sure this people have said this, your other guests have said this before, that voice acting is hard work. It's physically very involved. I use a lot of my core, you know, to speak, to make those sounds, especially projections. You're on your feet. We do, you know, 4-hour sessions, and when I speak, I want to stand.
Yeah.
But that means I spend the majority of the 4 hours on my feet. Yeah, and because it's so physically involved, you know, the sweat is real.
Yeah.
So you work, but to me, it's like there's no greater feeling for me that when I am sort of unleashed into a script. We've done our prep work, and then they put the script in front of me, and they just like unleash me onto it, and I just like power through that section. I just go and I get into that state of mind, that zone of that character, and I can almost like feel that the spine of the character is there, like as her. And that's when the best deliveries happen. And you just go, and I will work for long periods. Like I would literally, there was, we were running a little bit behind, and we needed to get a lot of those short lines done. You know, the you know, going A, and you know, the instructions, the really, really short.
Yeah.
You call them barks.
Oh.
There's other terms for it. The one that I've heard the most is barks. Because they are so short.
Yeah, makes
and
sense.
They're usually instructional.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna read through all this, and I'm gonna give you version ABC. And you know, you stop me or make a note if you want me to do another read of any of them as I go through. But this whole section, let me just power through it so I can just stay in the zone.
Yeah.
And it was like half an hour straight. I was just going, but it was so, I don't know, almost cathartic.
Yeah.
It was so like, it was such a good moment. And honestly, we barely had to do any re-records for those. So it
Wow.
was really, that's what I meant about getting into that state of like just being unleashed into the text once we've done the prep work and I know who this is and I can just give them, I will give them everything that I have to give in that moment. I will literally, everything is left out on the table. Here it is, everything.
Take
And
it
I'm
all.
usually absolutely wrecked by the time I come out, but it still feels great.
Wow. Oh my
Wrecked
god.
in a good way.
Getting wrecked in a good way, yeah.
Yeah.
Only in voice act. It's so cool. I love this to know that how much goes into it, how much prep. First of all, you do, how much work that they do, and this collaboration that both of these parties have. I just curious, like when you got to know that okay, it's Valorant, and you got to know that this is the character you're playing. What was your emotion then when you went to the first day? Were you nervous at the time? How would you prep because this is such a big game? Were there any things that you have to
I mean,
frame your
I
mind around?
found out in the booth.
Oh,
I found out in the booth. I found out when I was there.
wow. So even more.
But I was there auditioning. That's when I found out. Like during the audition process. So as we were going towards the end of it, they told me. And yeah, like I said, I had a mini meltdown in a good way. Not like,
Yeah.
And I'm not really a crier or anything like that, but I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. Bouncing. And
Yeah.
it's funny because everything then shakes because those rooms are treated like in all directions to absorb sound. So even the floor is slightly like, I don't want to say sprung, but it's not a hard floor.
Mhm.
And so as I'm bouncing, there's like the microphone on the stand going like this. I'm like, ah.
Oh my god.
So I was very, very happy. I was very happy. It was just the more I got to know her, the cooler she got. And I think then some of my input, and again, this is me speculating, some of my input and my ideas maybe got incorporated into the final product as such of some of the attitude, some of the the nuances, which I think they are so right to count on the voice actor for, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
We're not there to just say words. We're there to bring life to these characters.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's so cool. I'm always in awe to see how much goes into it and how much you're able to express yourself with a character that you don't initially know, but you get to know as you work through it. It's just such an awesome journey. And I'm always wondering like how anyone prep for a character. Do you look at something else, some other character that you can draw something in from, or is it like based on what they're saying?
Very often in voice acting, and to be honest, in video game acting, I also do motion capture and all this other stuff. You don't get the chance to prep. Not really.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because you don't get the script ahead of time. You get it maybe the night before. For mocap, when I've done it, for cinematics and stuff, like there have been situations where I got the script only when I arrived on the day. For voice, it's not as much of a problem because you're reading. For mocap, when you have to suddenly memorize all these pages of lines on the spot, it can be trickier. Your prep is the training you do in between jobs. It's, I still join a lot of workshops, acting workshops, vocal workshops, a lot of voice training that I do by myself, sometimes with a coach, learning new accents so that I can have those accents ready to go. I do a lot of accented work. So having those tools ready at the right level to do the job, that's your prep work. For the characters, very often you have to trust in this more general prep work to help you be ready for that when you actually get your hands on that material. You you essentially, are very quick in deciding, okay, it's this. You might do some stuff with the audition, um, with the audition material, but the bigger the IP, the less accurate those audition scripts are going to be because everything's so secretive. So very rarely do you get even like any kind of visual. You get certain references, but over time I found that relying on matching the references too much is a bad thing. You should do your performance. You shouldn't be copying something else. So yeah, so you can do some of the prep with your original audition, but you just have to be very flexible. Maybe they like your audition, they like certain types of reads, but they actually want you to read it in this other way, and you want you to change like a certain intention. Maybe they want you to be a little bit more soft, or maybe they want you to be more like authoritarian, or whatever it is. Yeah, it's just that there's the general prep, but very rarely do I get time to prep. So much so then now that I'm doing more film work, um, it's almost like a different kind of anxiety. I'm so chill. Like now I go into the booth or like wherever I'm going to job, and I know that they'll tell me what I need to know, and we're going to do this. And now that I do film work, then I get the whole script before I even got the part, like to figure it out and having to do all this prep work. It's almost like pressure, a different kind of pressure altogether. Some people prefer one or the other. I'm just more used to having this thing of like just thinking on my feet, so I'm always like almost like, yeah, I'm nervous with film scripts that I'm always over prepared. Yeah, so it's this balance. It's finding out what works for you.
Yeah, I mean, voice acting now is like second nature for you. So you can just go in and just go do with it. Like it's so cool, and I love that. And it's always good to know more about how it all goes behind the scenes, especially because a lot of people obviously they know the acting side from movie standpoint, but they don't know what happens in voice and behind the booth. So it's really good to know about that. And every time whenever Valorant comes up with a new character, there's this amazing music that is associated with it. And it's a killer music, this one.
Oh my God. I've been listening to it. It's weird because I actually hate the sound of my voice. I hate the sound of my own voice. I hate hearing myself.
That's me as well.
Years now. Yeah. Years. You just never get used to it. There's something about it that in your body is like, no. And yet I've had this track on repeat for the last few days. It is just, to me, it's like the kind of track you'd have at an end of the world rave.
Oh, yeah.
Like the rave, the world's about to, like the planet's about to be destroyed. You're having that rave at the end. I could hear this song. It is so epic.
It is so good. Yeah, I think every single character has that song. And then they have these episodes. That's also some amazing songs. So it's really cool how Riot has these really incredible songs. And I'm jamming to it, listening to it. It's just incredible. Is that type of music, like the music that you have for your specific character, is that the music that you like mostly, or do you like other kinds of music as well?
I have a really eclectic taste. So I guess the music, the two types of music that have marked my life the most are metal. I used to be a hardcore metalhead. I grew up because I have an older brother who's also into this. So, I was like 5 years old when we were listening to The Offspring. So when you start at The Offspring, and I'm talking 90s Offspring, not 2000s Offspring, I'm talking like Bad Habit. I'm talking like, oh my God, I can't even remember now. It was Bad Habit.
Yes.
It's a very, very expletive heavy song. That's just more like traditional punk. And then went all the way through to, by the time I was 10, it was like In Flames. And I have a real soft spot for like Finnish power metal. It's just so over the top. I love it. And I even ended up for a brief moment being the merch person for a very famous thrash metal band
Wow.
called Sepultura,
Wow.
because we had met years prior and sort of, just I was just kind of adopted into that circle. Some of the nicest, most down to earth people, the band and the crew ever. Like people always like, oh, did something happen? Like, oh, the associations. I'm like, no,
Of course.
no, that they were really, when I stepped in last minute to sort of help them out with that because there was a bit of an issue for a European tour. They really, really looked out for me. They were really like quite protective and all that. They're just a love of people. Anyway, I digress. It's a tangent. So yeah, metal, and I don't want to say heavy metal because in my nerdy mind, that's just one of the subgenres. So
Yeah.
metal music.
Yes, I can understand.
Big influence on my life. And went to so many music festivals. And the other one, which isn't so far removed from metal as people might think, is classical music.
Oh.
I did ballet for 10 years. I have a huge amount of respect for the vocal ability of classical singers and for just the dedication to the craft of anybody that is in classical music, that any classical musician, the amount of work and practice and just dedication that it takes to create a sound that is so unbelievably epic, and complex, and yet incredibly listenable and like says something. Those two genres really sort of marked my life a lot, and there's a lot of influence across. Like there's a lot classical music. I did my master's thesis on heavy metal. Okay,
Oh,
so I did my
wow.
on metal. That's how into it I
Beautiful.
am. I did my master's thesis on metal, and in that I also traced like the origins, and it shows just how big a role classical music had in the evolution of metal. Anyways, this is not a podcast about my master's thesis though. This is about games.
Oh, man.
So I would say that now, for music, anything that sounds epic. I'm kind of genre agnostic.
Okay.
I will listen to anything and everything, and I will appreciate it. But the thing that really like gets my brain going, when you have that like feeling up your spine, that tingle, like, oh, this is epic.
Yeah.
Is anything that does like has a level of being epic,
Yeah.
which doesn't mean loud.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean enormous in a very overt way. It means that it just has a certain emotional intensity, emotional size. I don't know how else to describe it. Like this, something that's very calm and small and almost whispered can still be really epic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a power to it. That's the best way I could describe it. So you can send me anything, but it's like if it has that,
Yeah.
it's just the.
It needs that. Yes, I can. I
And
totally.
for anybody listening and not watching the video, I'm making just sort of orb shapes with my hands, two claws, and just going.
It makes
The
so
metalheads
much
will get
sense.
it.
Yeah, the metalheads will get it. It makes so much sense because I love metal. I've not heard a lot of I've not followed so many metal bands, but I love metal as well. I'm a big fan of watching wrestling, so I listen to all the rock/metal songs, all that songs, and some of
Yeah.
them are my favorite.
Who are your favorites
Right. So I have
at the moment?
3 favorites for the time being. They're not literally metal. They're sort of kind of like a mix. Sometimes they go that way, sometimes they go this way. One of them is Linkin Park.
Of course.
The other one is Alter Bridge. And the third one that is also has been because of video games. I got to know them, and they still work in video games. That is Poets of the Fall. And
I see.
yeah, I love all these 3 bands. Incredible music. So they're all sort of mixed in all of these.
Yeah.
It's
I
good.
look, I know them just because, I mean, apart from Linkin Park, because they do a lot of the metal festivals. They're
Yes.
really good.
Yeah,
They're really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, one of my current ones is Spirit Box, which is Canadian. Then
Yeah.
Courtney LaPlante, call me. I want to send you things, as in like just presents for being amazing. Like I'm such a Courtney LaPlante fangirl. I wish I am working. This is one of my side projects vocally.
Ooh.
It's just tricky because there is a level of soreness, throat soreness, like early on, or like if you overdo it with this extreme vocals, this false fold vocals, and I can't afford to be
Yeah.
to have a sore throat just like that, as you're working to do it right. But yeah, so what she does vocally, going from the normal or like more like chest singing to the false fold screaming, is goals. I hope one day that I'll be able to do something even remotely like that.
Wow. Yeah.
Just, she's amazing.
It is insane. How much vocal power goes to it?
Control.
The
It's the
control.
control, the isolation of things, the fact that she's so comfortable doing that she can switch between them without having to go like I am this whole interview,
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I feel the same way about Chester and how he does this all screaming and just go back normally. I'm like, how did
Yeah.
So it's just incredible.
It's the control.
It's the control. So cool.
Yeah.
If you went for music a
Wild.
little bit over here. But I love going tangents as well.
Yeah. This is gonna be longer than an hour, let me tell you.
Be longer than yeah. So people will be like, what?
Why is this 2 hours long? Well, just us discussing metal.
What? Yeah, we're discussing metal. I gotta say, like every single character that comes in Valorant has these like insane cool lines. Some of them are favorites, some of them people say these lines. And for Vyse, some of them lines are like attack in some ways, sort of not attacking, but like disrespectful, I guess, or something
reading.
like that. Yeah.
I would call it reading.
Yeah, it's called reading. I love one of the lines is called "I want Yoru's head," figuratively, but let's also kill him. I love that. It's so fun. I was laughing all the way.
Yeah, I was laughing too. It was I needed a few moments to compose myself as I was reading, because like I said, like you don't get the script ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I was reading these for the first time when in the booth. And yeah, I was sometimes, it was so funny. Either already when I read it, or it just silently when I read it, or after I did my read of it. I just, I think I had a few takes where I couldn't finish it without laughing. Not often,
Yeah.
I held it together, but it was really fun during those. It was really funny. It's like, oh, good. They brought the gun obsessed valet. Like, I just reading them for filth, just all of them. It's like everybody's been so nice. And yet I'm like, this is still my favorite part.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. I was just like looking at all these lines, and another favorite of mine is like when the character kills KO and just goes ahead, well, that's not getting reassembled. Like, Jesus Christ. It's like,
I think it helped a lot that I played a lot of games, so I can see generally when I work on games, I found that it's been a huge asset, that I am a player, even if it's not of that game. Depending on the perspectives, first person, third person, whatever it is, I can really adjust my read, and I know how to adjust my read without necessarily having to be told, because I know what it feels like to play a game from that perspective. So, understanding when they told me, okay, this is going to go into this part of the game, I was like, okay, I know how to read this. I know how I need to deliver this for it to fit and not be jarring to the player experience. Like that's kind of the subtle art of voice acting for games, is how do you give a good performance that fits, but also that doesn't jar the player's experience, like that doesn't take them away from what they're doing.
Yeah.
But adds.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a gamer also kind of helps that, like,
I just know that if I read it in a certain way, I'd be annoyed. So I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's so amazing. And one of the things that I know, like obviously as voice actors, you go in, you record these lines, you don't really know how it looks. Like the final product, you just don't know. But when every Valorant character has this, when you have this character introduction of video specifically based for that. Talk me through like when you first saw it, what was your reaction?
This is so cool. I've said this like 500 times already during this podcast. I was just giddy. I was like, this is like 12-year-old me is just jumping for joy. It's something I set out to pursue acting and sort of see if it would happen for me, if I could make something of it for myself in 2017. So that's technically in acting time, as in like I had zero training before then. You know what I mean? Zero. I've just been like high school plays and like an immersive theater play being a zombie. So I was mainly screaming and running around. But before that, I had no formal acting training. That was the starting absolute zero in 2017. And I said, okay, I already have this other education. I have this, sort of other career going in technology, and in business and all that kind of stuff, which I hated. But I was like, you know what? I want to see if I can make this happen, but if I'm going to make it happen, it's going to happen on my terms.
Of course.
So I came in with sort of very defined boundaries for my interactions, for my interactions with people,
There you go.
but also like certain professionalism that was instilled from my previous work, and like sort of being comfortable with the business side of this job. Yeah, so I didn't know if it was gonna happen. I had a backup if it wasn't gonna happen. So I kind of went like, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It still doesn't mean that I didn't care. And then going into it, I said, no, games is where I very quickly discovered games is where I can make my mark. Games is where I belong.
Yes.
I have something to say in games. I have something to tell people in games and something to give. I think that's been my driving force of why I focused on games so heavily, and why sort of very naturally, and why it wasn't like it just happened for me. It still took a lot of hard work, a lot of training, a lot of dedication. Anybody that you would ask about, that knows me, that you ask about like how crazy obsessed I was about just any spare minute I had to give to the pursuit of this. They would tell you like I was a woman on a mission.
Yeah.
And then to start, I remember when I was working on the first moment that I had that moment of like, holy moly, I'm actually doing it. I'm actually doing the thing I set out to do, was when I was doing mocap for Destiny 2, The Witch Queen. Now, I think that might be wrong, but I think at least it was one of the first cinematics that they were, for that expansion. It was one of the first times you're doing all the mocap for the cinematics in the UK. Normally all this stuff happens in the US or Canada. And when I got the audition, because I wasn't doing the voice, that's it was for Savathun and for Eris Morn and for The Witness. And the second I got the audition, this was for mocap to pre-recorded audio. So the voice actors had already done their performances, and we needed to add the movements, the physical performance to it. And I get that from my agent. I'm like, oh my goodness, this Destiny 2. Because I have like, there's like on Steam, I have over 1,000 hours in Destiny 2. That's not counting the time before Destiny 2 came to Steam.
Yes.
Okay. I did 24-hour live streams, like charity live streams, where we would be doing the raids. We'd be playing Destiny 2 for 24 hours straight. So suffice to say, I know these characters. I know the game.
Of course.
And it meant the world to me but also at the same time, I was weirdly calm and confident. I was like, everybody, stand down, get out of the way because I got this. I knew that nobody that would have gotten this audition through to audition for it would have more knowledge about these characters and how they fit into the game than me. I just because it's also a small world with mocap performers. We mostly know each other. So I was like, okay, I got this. But then on the day, I'm already in that huge volume at Centroid. Centroid Studios is one of the biggest mocap volumes here, at least in Europe. And I walk out there, and they had you have live, like real time previs, and sometimes you have the generic, like these generic puppets, whatever that you can see, and sometimes they load in the character models and the environment. It depends on the production. They had loaded in the character for Eris Morn for me. And I just look over and I see it's Eris Morn, mind you, in a grayed out, non-textured model.
Of course.
It's Eris Morn, and she's moving like I'm moving. I'm raising my arm and she's raising her arm. I was just like, I'm gonna need a minute. Somebody's been cutting onions. Like that was the first time. It meant the world to me to be there in that moment. It meant, and just to have that privilege to pick up the mantle and to embody those characters I had spent so many hours with. It meant more than words could ever say. And every time that anything like that happens, like being in Valorant and being in Five Nights at Freddy's and being in Battlefield, like Battlefield's, it was again another thing I found out about in the booth, except that wasn't even during the audition. That was day one of recording. I was like, can you tell me what the game is? And I was like, oh yeah. Sorry, forgot. It's a Battlefield. I'm like, oh my God. Because me and my brother used to play Battlefield 1942 on, if it wasn't dial-up, it was shortly after we got the ADSL connection. Like, we were part of a clan.
Oh wow!
We were on TeamSpeak. My brother had that because he was a pilot. He had that a controller. It was, these things matter.
Yes.
These things are part of my life, and now to be part of them, to be able to speak what I have to sort of give in terms of performance, to be able to channel that into this is almost like giving back. It's it means every time I have a recording session, I get up and I'm like, I can't wait to get in there, and I can't wait to do more and make more, and that's why no matter where my career might go, like games will always be like my first love. They will always be top.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. That's my inspirational speech.
Inspirational. Yes, I'm literally so inspired, because it's so awesome to hear that you being such a big fan of games and now you get to work in games. And you mentioned you started in 2017 acting. Who knew? Like 8 years later, you're in Valorant. You have on Five Nights at Freddy's.
Not even 8 years, but 7.
Yeah, almost 7 years. Battlefield, like such incredible games, and you continue to do more. It's so cool. And as you mentioned, like, it's inspirational for sure, because a lot of people now are getting so much into acting in video games now. It has much more risen up, and so people just want to get in.
Yeah, and the passion from the devs, it's palpable. It's like they really want to tell this story. They really, like, it doesn't matter if it's Valorant or if it's a one-man band.
Yeah.
And I'll never not work with an indie, like I'll never say no to that, because all of these things matter. It's even like if you just voice it's like, oh, I'm just doing this NPC or that NPC or whatever, like 5 lines in it. I'm like, that still matters. That's still part of the experience. But again, going to screen has been a bit of a shock, because you'll find, let's say the director will be really passionate. or like a couple of people around production will be really passionate. But for a lot of the people, it's just a day job.
Just a word.
A lot of people on screen, it's just like, I'm just filming another thing. They're kind of like a little bit disassociated from just from the way productions work. You can't expect people to be just psyched about everything.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an adjustment to see how the like people being passionate about something is expressed in that world as opposed to with games. The games, like people are just, they live and breathe it.
Yeah. Well, it's always cool to see all of this, like the development and how it all goes. And you mentioning that you played Battlefield 1942, and there's been like so many Battlefield games now. I don't know if how many of those have you played, but do you have a Battlefield game that you feel like that's my Battlefield?
I mean, I haven't played enough of the other ones. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. So I mean, I played a lot of 2042, which is really weird because I kind of was like, oh, I'm yelling at myself. Eventually, I tuned that out just because I have a lot of friends that wanted to play it, and we ended up getting into this routine. And Battlefield games always scratch a very particular itch in someone's brain. I don't know why. There's something like, oh, it's another FPS. What's the difference? No, there's something to them. Battlefield 1 was really, really good. In my personal opinion. But I haven't spent enough time with the others to do that. It's like 1942 was like that thing. We spent so many years playing it. And then I was a little bit battlefielded out. I'm not gonna lie. And I kind of drifted away. Like a lot of my life changed at that point. We had moved to different countries. Like I had started uni eventually, like it was, there's just a lot happening in my life that took me slightly away from those kinds of games where you kind of need to be practiced in order to not have it be a respawn simulator. So I was a little bit like, the skill sling's a bit, I'm gonna, move to like World of Warcraft, and I moved to more single player games, because I know that the Battlefield games had their campaign mode, but really the reason I would play a Battlefield game is the multiplayer. So I kind of drifted away from that into more like a lot of fantasy games and stuff like that. And then I sort of, I don't know, I guess around 8-9 years ago, kind of started drifting back, but very slowly. And I played, a bunch of different games. But it's also because my social circles change as you go through uni and you're moving and you're doing this and you're not around people all the time. It was kind of like this, and now I'm still like every evening I play. Like right now I'm playing Helldivers 2 as like a nightcap, because I go in and I do a round. It's like this punctuates my day, spreading some democracy for Super
democracy.
Earth. Yeah,
it's all about democracy.
Throwing out some liberty.
Yes. Sweet liberty. Love it.
I also I'm a big Final Fantasy 14 fan. So
yes,
I have to get through that Dawn Trail expansion and all that.
Wow. Yeah, but I'm so happy to just hear all this. Like, it's so cool to know that I'm talking to like a gamer who just loves all these games, different kinds of games.
Yeah.
But there's fantasy, but there's FPS. It's just so cool.
Are you playing anything right now?
I'm playing a lot of different games here and there, and I feel always bad because a lot of people have started their games in different ways. Like a lot of people love the Skyrims and the Mass Effects. And I always feel bad that I've not played those games. And I feel like somebody says me and they're like, you have not played that? I'm like, I don't know. So I started out very differently. So, it's just... I
mean, everybody has some of those games. Like when I tell people, I play Final Fantasy 14, I haven't played any of the other Final Fantasy games ever because I've always been a PC player.
Yes.
And those were on PlayStation. So like that didn't reach me. There's a lot of other games that I've never touched, and there's just not enough time in the day.
That's exactly.
There's not, you can't play them all.
You can't do
you
it.
gotta pick the ones you want to play. Skyrim, I always say it's well worth your time. I've been feeling the siren song of Skyrim calling me again. Like I should start again, maybe with this character, because there's something very relaxing and very meditative about it. And I have had a very intense year. Valorant was part of that, but like but you're stuck. Yeah, Valorant was part of that, but there were so many other things happening in my life this year. It's been so full on that I'm just like craving something, something a bit more chill.
Yeah. I can understand
And
that.
I say I'm playing Helldivers too, but okay, it's like half
It's
an hour
fine.
at a time.
It's all right. Helldivers
Yeah,
is still, it can go
it's
chill,
so
you know?
funny. Yeah, it's not terribly serious
It's
or
not terrible.
competitive.
True. It's easier that way. I think one of the games that has taken off like really by storm in many ways because there's so many now is Five Nights at Freddy's. You've been a part of it. Security Breach, you played Roxanne, you play Gregory, you play Vanny, you play so these characters. And I love Roxanne's in the DLC specifically, lots of Security Breach because she's different over there. So how insane is it for you to be a part of the Five Nights at Freddy's world? Because it's so big.
Insane is the right word.
Yeah.
um it's also insane how I got in, like how I got the opportunity to audition for that. Because the man who's now, I believe, the director of development for Steel Wool started off as executive producer for Five Nights at Freddy's at the time. I had met him a little while prior in a completely non-acting capacity. I was, still, was a full-time actor. So I was working remotely for different companies, and I was interviewing for the company he was working for at the time to do some community work for them. And I exited that interview prior because it just wasn't the right fit, but we still spoke regardless. Got along really well. This is just super, like, just an amazing human being. I immediately was like, okay, no, you're cool. I'm keeping you.
Yeah.
Somebody once said that I just collect people. I just decide you're cool.
Get
You're
in
here
there.
now. It's just, yeah, you're here now. That's fine. You stay here.
Open the box. You're in.
Yeah, and so I have a varied group of friends because I don't go by like, I don't know, stereotypes, whatever. I just go by feel. I'm like, if I feel you're cool and like genuine and whatever, I'm like, yeah, no, you're get in here.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, I get an email and it's like interested in a gig, and I'm like, go on. And that was from him, Ray McCaffrey.
Oh, wow.
And he sent me this email because we had caught up, just like little phone calls, just like this, Google Meet or whatever. And we would keep in touch, and I told him, yeah, I'm doing voice acting and stuff like that, but I never really like heavily lent into that with him because that was in the context of our conversations. He was like, well, do you want to audition for these characters? And it was Roxanne and Gregory. And Roxanne, I was like, yeah, no, I got this. And for Gregory, I had never voiced a child before. And I was terrified. And so I took, like, this was over the weekend, and I was literally pacing around this apartment, like trying to figure out, like, listening to references. I already wrote out a response to Ray to say, I'm not going to audition for Gregory because that's just not my thing. But I was like, no, it's for Ray. It's, at least I have a little bit of an ally. So even if I do something and I make an ass of myself, at least they know I'm not a complete psycho,
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm gonna give it a shot. And within 24 hours, I get a response back. That is exactly what we're looking for. Yeah, we would love for you to voice both. Yeah, let's go. And I'm like, oh crap.
No.
I'm gonna have to voice Gregory.
What did I do?
And I genuinely wasn't sure if I could do it. So I was, before the first recording session, by the way, we recorded everything ever for Five Nights at Freddy's. right here,
Oh,
right
wow.
next door to me. Everything in this booth, remotely. So I, I was like, what, like freaking out before the first session because I was like, am I going to be able to sustain this voice? This is such a different part of my register. Am I going to be able to emote fully
Yeah.
in this voice? I was really taking a chance. Luckily, my voice did not give out on me.
Yeah.
And over the time, I found a really comfortable spot to sort of position myself in, and I can now I can like I can do this all day.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but so this I'm just giving you the long story of it because I knew about Five Nights at Freddy's. I knew about it because I used to follow Markiplier. I mean, still follow Markiplier, and back in the day, PewDiePie, and
Yes.
They're like Cinnamon Toast Ken, and that sort of
Oh
all
my
those
God, it's
guys
so cool.
made. Yeah, I still follow a lot of them. They were all playing the first Five Nights at Freddy's and Five Nights at Freddy's 2. And then after that, I tried it. I was like, I'm really bad at this. I'm really bad at horror games.
Ooh,
So I
okay.
kind of I kind of drifted away from it. And then I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be in the next Five Nights at Freddy's game, I better do my homework. So I ended up watching all the playthroughs.
No
Like I
way.
watched so much. I was just like immersing myself in that vibe again to be able to absorb. If you were asking me about like character prep, that was my character prep. I knew that there was an intense fandom with it, but it is quite self-contained in many
Yes.
ways. So I was like, I don't know. I don't want, but I don't want to make anybody mad at me. So I would just want to do right
Yeah.
by the people who are like by the fans. So I went in and the Steel Wool team was just amazing to work with. And I consider them, good friends. We have this really nice relationship, really trusting relationship. They are so supportive of me and my work that I will forever be grateful to them for not just the opportunity to be in Five Nights at Freddy's in such a huge capacity, but for just generally how they support me outside of the game. Like they are wonderful people. I got to actually meet them in person finally last year at PAX West.
Wow.
Um and so yeah, when that came out and they gave me Vanny kind of last minute. Vanny, yeah, came into my repertoire. There was also the other scary thing, and I could talk about this all day, but like the other scary thing with this was that these characters had to talk to each other.
Yes.
So I needed to find voices, and not just in terms of pitch, but cadence and personality, that are distinct enough that people would not immediately recognize that it's the same person voicing these. And I think we really nailed it.
Yes.
But yeah, I had to like come up with the right vocal profile for Vanny, kind of on the spot.
Ooh.
And I'm glad it worked out.
Wow.
But when it came out and the tidal wave of attention, that was something I had to process. Once that hit, I almost feel like my Twitter feed was no longer my own. My Twitter, there's people paying attention now. I'm not just tweeting into the void.
Yeah.
And it still is like that. Sometimes I'm a little bit nervous to sort of even share like funny things because people do love to lore hunt, and I don't want to like mislead people. But at the same time, I'm so grateful to even have that problem. Because it means people care.
Yeah.
And I appreciate everybody who's sort of taken the time to check out my work or that cares about my work. Isn't that kind of like the end game for any actor is to be able to reach people with your work and for them to sort of respond, and that sort of that relationship. And I think I've over the years cultivated a really nice relationship with the community. I think everybody's just been wonderful. And like for Help Wanted, it was another great thing that just getting to voice so much of Ruin was fantastic. And also I want to give props to, Brian Fairmouth and J-Top for how well they directed all of us. you have Gregory and Freddy, Glamrock Freddy, talking to each other all game long.
Yes.
I had not met Kellen before pretty much a year after the game came out. We never spoke. Like we spoke via Twitter DMs and stuff like that, but we never actually interacted. We never met. We were never on the same line together ever. So they directed us so well that our vocal performances matched.
Oof.
So yeah, it's
It is.
crazy.
It is
making
crazy.
games.
Yeah, making game is so crazy. Yeah, it is always
Yeah.
every single time when I hear, even though I know it, like I know that usually two actors are not around, next to each other, actually conversing. It's actually one person just either listening or sometimes not even listening, and just the voice director is directing them. And it's always so cool when we see the game, play the game. It's easily so natural.
You think in the same room, right? And we've never met. Yeah, and I'm very proud to say that Kellen and I since then have become very, very good friends. And again, Kellen is in Valorant as well as Wingman.
Yes.
So it's just I'm very fortunate. Very fortunate in so many ways, not least of which is that I got to on these big titles that really matter to me and to everybody. And not that the little ones don't matter, but like in terms of scrutiny that they receive, that I got to work with wonderful, supportive people. EA Dice for Battlefield. I was sad when they sort of said this is now it's like, we're wrapping things up for 2042. Because I was recording for them, not just, in 2021. It was all the updates, all the seasons, every time there's new maps, because I was the Russian commander, you needed new lines that were, relating to the new mechanics, the new maps, new everything. And so that meant every few months for the last 4 years or so, like three and a half, I would go into the studio and have another session and talk with the same people. And we, do a little quick catch up. And, I'd go, the studio we're using is RDY Creative. So Glenn would be there and we'd go, and it just felt like home. Like, I just walk in and you're like, okay, we're going to do the thing. I'm going to hear this song, like get to checkpoint B or whatever, all that. I like, what was it? Not checkpoint. Sector Foxtrot is under is under out of control. All that. And I'm just there like, oh, I'm not gonna do that anymore. It's sad. It's end of an era.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. These games, at least, especially 2042, is ends, and now a new Battlefield game is going to come out sometime. I don't know about it, anything, but like, it's just.
I don't think anybody knows anything about it. Yeah. It's just that it exists.
Yeah.
That's being worked on.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what they make.
Yes, me too. And you mentioned about Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, and I saw this post on Instagram where you talked about like how you did the trailer being in the hotel room with a pillow fort. And you said it's very common. So how common is it to have these pillow forts as a voice actor?
Extremely common. I think it's these auditions come in whenever they come in. I can't be here all the time.
Yeah.
I either want to go on holiday, or maybe I'm somewhere for another job, which was, I believe, the case for that particular pillow fort. I was somewhere else on a business trip, like business related thing. And I was like, look, I'm either back next week if you need me to, like, if you can wait until then so I can go into my booth, or I can just, do the hotel room recording. And I can tell you every single voice actor, every single one, not just for auditions, but for actual jobs, like corporate jobs, like commercials and everything, has done at the very conservatively, at least one job from a pillow fort. And you basically just take whatever's there. If you got chairs, you got whatever. I like to use the side of the bed. So I'm like sitting on the floor
Yeah.
And then like a chair behind me if I can, and like the duvet over, because it kind of build like a little bit of a tent. So if I like lift up my computer, then the screen is part of it, like holding it up. Sometimes I just throw something over my head. Like if it's an audition, I don't necessarily build out the whole thing. If it's for an audition, it has to be close enough, but it doesn't have to be, broadcast quality.
Yeah.
And I do have a traveling microphone. I do have a professional microphone that's like travel size that I take with me everywhere. So the audio quality was going to be really good at just how good I could get the environment around me. But yeah, I was recording that, like trying to get in between I was trying to get the takes in between housekeeping coming by with a vacuum cleaner going up and down the hallway. I'm like, oh, can you just
Stop it.
Yeah, I just wanted to go on and go shh. And I'm like, I'm under that duvet. It gets really, really warm. And so I'm sweating. My computer's overheating. Everything was going a bit like that, but that's just a voice actor's life. Everybody's done that. Every single person. There's a bunch of people, like the volume of auditions you'll get, let's say for like American actors get. And I'm not saying for games, it's for voice work across the board.
Yeah.
Like they'll literally have an iPad, the same kind of microphone I have, and like they'll sit in their car and smash out an audition. You just have to like get as much out as possible and be flexible.
Yeah, wow. It's so much work, like so much. You have to just do it. There's no like, wait, let me go back to my
Nobody's gonna wait for you.
No one.
Nobody has time to wait for you.
Time. Yeah. One of the another cool things, and you mentioned that you net developers and all that from the game. One of the cool things that obviously people have, the fans, the build up things. There's fan arts, it's cosplaying, but this one is specific that I feel like the name is Atreyu, who makes these animatronics of Five Nights at Freddy's.
The regular sauce.
Yeah, it's so cool looking to see these animatronics come to life. There was one for Roxanne. Wow, it's wonderful.
Is a genius.
Yeah.
He's a genius. Just plain and simple, and just. I mean, I got the chance to see, not Roxanne, because Roxanne is this year, but last year I got to see a bunch of his stuff in person because I did come over to Seattle. Of my own accord. I wasn't working or anything. I just wanted to meet everyone. So I came to PAX West and I got to see this and got to meet everyone. And it is just pictures and videos don't do his work justice. They don't do the work justice. They just don't. It is a level of detail and functionality and everything, like the way you have a little controller where you can actually control, the blinking and the character's eyes and whether they light up and all that while he's puppeteering. At one point I got to do that. He's in the Glamrock Freddy suit and Kellen's on voice and we're walking around, and that was a lot of people don't know what I look like. They more recognize me by my voice. And so they had no idea who this blonde chick walking with them was. But I got to have the little joystick to be puppeteering.
Yeah.
I guess Freddy's eyes and mouth I think it was mouth as well, but at least his eyes.
Yeah.
While Kellen was improvising and Trey was in that suit puppeteering Freddy, and it was just so much fun. It was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this right now. This is great. The smiles on people's faces are just, it was great.
Yeah, wow.
I did an amazing stand this year as well, that 10th anniversary birthday party theme. Just genius.
So
genius.
Cool. It is really a genius thing to just look at how much people do, and seeing that animatronic, I was like, insane.
And they really know how to interact with the community and how to have this really good relationship with the community, which I think for any developer is really, really important.
Yeah.
That's not adversarial, that's collaborative. They just know how to make people happy, and that's kind of just what they want to do. They first and foremost want to make people happy, and they're just as giddy about the content. as any fan. And so they're also really good at like maintaining really good relationship with the content creators, which is why they hired the regular sauce
Yeah.
to do this, and they have Daco there, who's a big YouTuber there, and John FNAF,
Yeah.
that both wonderful human beings as well. Yeah, I've had a pretty good time in this industry. I'm not gonna lie, I've had a pretty good time.
It's so cool. I just love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah.
It's just so fun to just get to see your work and get to be a part of not only like you're part of games now, but you also play games. So it's just like such a cool relationship, and then get to meet people.
Yeah.
All of it is absolutely fun.
Yeah.
And
And here now, I get to do this.
I get to do this. Yeah, I'm just always so fascinated by this, with all of this that's been happening. And you earlier mentioned that you are a big fan of Final Fantasy 14, and you did do a cosplay.
I
You
did do a
yes, you
cosplay.
did do a cosplay. Hildebrand, you did him. Such a good
Yeah.
cosplay. You wanted to go to the con, but didn't happen. But such a good cosplay.
Oh yeah, because there's such demand for those tickets, for the FanFest
Yes,
tickets, that they did a
FanFest.
lottery for it. I didn't get tickets. But it is funny because I did that entire cosplay happened out of pettiness. And I also love the idea that I cosplayed somebody from Final Fantasy, and it was definitely not anybody would ever imagine me cosplaying. Like, I'd be sooner cosplaying Minfilia.
Wow.
But which I wouldn't, because I can't stand her. That aside,
Yeah.
I love Hildebrand, and I basically, a friend of mine was joking and like kind of taunting me around and my love for the Hildebrand series. It's like, oh yeah, no, you should go to that as FanFest. And it was like about 10 months out. I was like, try me. And I literally emailed Carrie from Velvetina Lee, who is a wonderful costume designer and cosplay designer. And I was like, I want to do this. Can you help me do this? Because let's face it, I'm not going to be able to learn tailoring in 10 months. And we worked on it together, and I sourced, shoes that were like, because he's got these sort of 17th, 18th century heeled shoes. So I sourced those shoes from Italy. And you can't find, he wears like these socks that have a black seam, white socks that have a black seam at the back. A lady in Serbia made those. Like, I was committed. I got, some people that work in like hair for films to help me make the wig. Because it needed styling, and men's styling is really difficult, especially that kind of bouffant.
Yeah.
And I had my friend Sally Gainsford, who I've worked with for years on photography projects, even just this weekend. And I was like, can you take like a professional shot, like a proper, like, I need this to be immortalized in the right way. And she went and studied like a lot of the pictures from the game to get the lighting right.
Beautiful.
I was like muscle pose studying. I was like, I'm going to do this right. Okay. Just, unrecognizable. Yeah. I even got this sort of, I had anybody that's seen my profiles, my social media profiles know I have a lot to do with horses.
Yeah.
And I have this side saddle riding corset, so like this weird, odd corset that kind of gives a lot of like, still mobility in your waist. So I'm cinched within an inch of my life into that to create the right shape. And
Wow. So much work. And I just love it.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was
for a petty taunt. I was like, you challenged me.
You just wait.
10 months from now, I'm gonna knock your socks off. That's right.
And you did.
Do not, do not underestimate my ability to like hold on to something like that and see it through, just for the joke alone.
Wow. Oh,
yeah.
I loved it because it looks so good. It looks so damn good. Lovely.
10 months. Carrie really worked hard on that. like on the tailoring for that. We had like I think 7 fittings because
Wow.
it had to contour to my body exactly. That's just what suiting is. The suit needs to fit right. So yeah,
A lot of work and paid off, I would say. I have to say.
yeah, fun,
Fun.
just fun.
You again mentioned about the horses, and there are so
Yeah,
many beautiful photos of yours with your horse,
yeah, thanks.
especially with the legs lifted up, and it's such a dramatic
Yeah,
photo. I
rearing.
loved it. Where did
Yeah.
the love for horses really begin for you? Like, was it something that you had to do for training purposes, or was that
Mm.
that you really were into?
Honestly, I'll be quite brief with this. I was the toddler and somebody plopped me onto some farmer's horse's back for a photo. And just the expression on my face in that photo is like, yeah, no, this is it. You're not getting rid of it. This is my jam. Nobody, at least nobody living in the family, was into horses. My grandfather, who sadly passed away only a few months before I was born, he was into horses, but nobody else. In fact, my mom is scared of horses. So it was just sheer will that I was like, please let me have riding lessons. Please have this. And I actually had a really bad accident when I was 14. I got speared head first into the ground. Both me and the horse went flying.
Right.
I don't actually remember what happened. You know, that's how hard I hit my head. I had that sort of little bit of, I guess, amnesia. All I remember is being slapped awake, and obviously I was concussed, and I actually had a little bit of like a trauma response to it psychologically, where for the next 6 years I couldn't sit on a horse without having a panic attack, complete panic attack. I'm telling you, you asked me my name, I wouldn't be able to tell you my name. And yet I couldn't stay away. And so, you know, after I recovered from, because I injured my neck a little bit with that, I was very lucky to actually walk away from that. And psychologically sort of going on that journey, and now I've got my own, and it's like a dream come true. And I love animals in general. I will work with any animal. I just the connection you can get with an animal is something really, really special to me. This weekend, I was working with wolf dogs and birds of prey.
Oh.
You know, like, and it's not the first time I've worked with them for years now. And it's just that thing of like being able to, for the animal to connect with you and to feel safe with you while you're doing weird poses and stuff because you're doing photos. It's very special. So animals are big, very, very important part of my life. And obviously I've dedicated a big part of that to studying horsemanship. It's but honestly, if I go down this route, this is going to turn into the horse podcast. So I'm really, really trying to show restraint right now.
I can totally understand.
Yeah.
I love the photos. It's so cool to see all these videos, clips, photos. It's just really cool to see how much you're involved in it. And I'm always thinking like, I don't think so I can do this because I always see like, oh, they're big. But like it's
If you're ever in London, you know, you can come meet my horse. Yeah. You
yes.
can come meet my horse. He's very, very safe and sweet, and you know, doesn't kick or bite or anything like that. He's just the
Perfect.
best.
All right, now I know what to do next.
Yeah.
We'll see about that. Well, I have few fan questions. I wonder if you are able to answer those now.
Absolutely. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, cool. So let's start with Evelyn. She has a question about what are your thoughts on Viper and Vyse's relationship?
It's difficult for me to answer that question. I don't think I can answer that question. Uh I think all will be revealed in time, I believe.
Interesting.
I've seen a lot of people. We obviously there's a lot of voice lines for Vice that speaks directly. That speak directly to Sabine, and just I think there's a lot in the fact that she calls Viper Sabine, given like you know in the past, whenever any other character would refer to her like that, she'd get very upset. Um, so I think that says something about that gives us crumbs of what the relationship could have been or might be. I don't know. This is the person that wants me to speak to like the current wave of Viper and Vyse shipping. You know, and I was the same thing as I did when there was like Roxanne Wolf and Chica shipping. I'm like, hey, look, for your stories, it's in this world, like who am I to tell you how to experience the game and the characters? Like, if that's how you prefer to experience that, go for it.
Yeah.
Enjoy. See where it takes you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love how these people, everybody just bring things together and it just makes it
exactly.
own. It's so
Yeah, like it's fun, it's entertainment, you know. So yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say.
makes sense. Rest of Bernot has a question. After a long day of recording and pushing your voice to the limit, how do you recover?
I have my special not so secret cocktail of I like Earl Grey. And I drink that during recording sessions with honey. And I like honey from I got like a bunch of jars from home. It's like my little piece of home in Slovenia. We may make really good honey. So like honey, and then some lemon. Sometimes I add some ginger to it. It's not a secret. This is like, but it works like a magic potion. If I've done a lot of yelling, I might do some exercises that are almost like a vocal cool down once I get home, like very breathy things, like just may stretch out like my jaw and stuff. I massage my jaw, whatever it is. But generally just try not to speak or speak like this, you know, softer like that. And the good thing is that with all the training and preparation I've done for vocal ability, just the mechanics of it, I very rarely lose my voice these days. So I very rarely come out of a session feeling like I've gone too far. Even if there's a lot of projected work, like for Mordhau it's literally nothing other than yelling.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love yelling. I love yelling so much. Like when we were recording some of the old lines for Vyse, I'm so happy that they included the adapt or die. They use the adapt or die line that is me screaming it. Because if that felt right for the character. It really felt like right for that feeling. But obviously, there's not a lot of screaming in this game.
Yeah.
So it's always, you run the risk of it being jarring. And so I was just like, just give me a chance, man. Just give me a chance. Just let me do it. Like, I'm not going to blow out my voice. I've got plenty left in the tank. Screaming's my jam. Like, yelling is my jam. Let me
yell.
You know, these are just 2 lines. It's gonna be super short. I'm just gonna unleash. I'm gonna just go raw. And I just go, and there's like a little bit of like a stunned silence. And then I was asked to move slightly further away from the mic.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you know, I was able to present what I thought was right, and I'm so glad that made it into the game, because obviously I don't choose. But yeah, so that's a little extra tidbit for you. But yeah, no, I just it's either if I do feel like I'm sort of in a precarious position vocally, more tea or hot drinks or whatever, honey, maybe a nebulizer. If I have to go straight into another session, that's a good way to, or if I already have a cold or something, that's a little trick of the trade. A nebulizer can help everything stay, you know, like keep it from going too dry. Yeah, and just give you that little bit of extra time. But that's what a nebulizer does, as far as I know, is like it buys you a little bit of time. Really, where it counts is those, you know, vocal rest.
I love the alt line, by the way. You're screaming.
Yeah.
I love it. I was like,
When people tell me they get chills, I'm like, yes.
I did. When I was listening to it, I was like,
Yeah.
I am just getting chill. It's so cool because it just feels somehow right. Like, okay, yes,
Yeah.
that's
I mean, look, I do angry well. I mostly get hired to be angry. So, which is so not me. I'm not an angry person, but I think just unleashing a certain unbridled rage has gotten me more than one role
Hmm,
over time, you know.
that's lovely. Next question is from Bestie. Actually, you even answered this question because he asked about what was your worst
Oh,
experience.
I know.
Yeah, and you said a
It's
grumpy
because
Scottish guy.
I worked with him on I Am Rage, which is an action thriller that
Oh,
we shot in
mhm.
Scotland. He was the writer and one of the producers, one of the writers and producers on it. Liam, wonderful man, really took care of us. And no, I Am Rage was not my worst experience. I had great fun on I Am Rage. It was chaotic, but what indie movie isn't? Even
Yeah.
more so when you're trying to do an indie action movie. Any action movie is chaotic. Like and we're shooting it in Scotland in like the Highlands in March, okay? You have different weather every day, so continuity is a nightmare. But we had each other's backs. We were like together. We were in this together. And I think we made something really fun. The worst experience I'm lucky to say I haven't had any horror stories. I think I've come close to some horror stories. One thing I will say I am very good at is setting boundaries, but setting boundaries in a non-confrontational way. So I am usually going to either ask questions or just say, "Hey, look, these are the things that before anybody's ever spent any money on me or me being there, whatever like this, so people are in a much better place to hear these things. I would say I'm not comfortable doing this, this, and this, or like this might be a problem for me. Can we discuss it? Um, and so when people know exactly where they stand with you and what they can and can't ask you to do, it creates a much nicer working relationship. There were things where like, if you ask me to lie down in the mud so you can set up a shot and it's like freezing, I'm just gonna say, look, I'm not, you can set up the camera and then the last minute, I'll jump in so you can just finish framing up and we go. So don't I spent 1 minute in the freezing cold mud as opposed to 10.
Yeah.
Um, and again, nobody has a problem with that. It's just communicating it calmly and clearly and without sort of this like, why are you making me do this? Um, I guess there was like one project that I think probably is never going to see the light of day anyway, because there was a bit of issues with productions before I ever joined. Um, that it was just every time I came in because they didn't quite know what they wanted. Um, and then I started feeling like maybe I'm not the right person for this job. That's a horrible feeling to feel. Like I'm here and I'm wasting these people's money, but at the same time, they chose me. And now there's clearly like a dissonance between what they want and what one person is saying they want. That's not me. I can't do that. And so being in there in the middle of that in my headphones, as people like there's the people on the phone call in, on the Zoom call in, and people in the booth having an argument. You're just there like, well,
This is
like
great.
every session, yeah, and they kept like calling you out for multiple sessions, and every session was like pulling teeth. I was like, I never want to do that again. Like, please, nobody ever put me in that situation ever again. Like, that was horrible. And that's why I also say to a lot of actors or aspiring actors, trust in the casting process because the worst thing is when you're miscast and they realize that when you're there and you're just made to feel like crap because it's not your fault.
Yeah.
The people that are casting, when they say no to you, it's not personal.
Mhm.
It's them trying to do their job. They're just trying to do their job. And so if you happen to not fit in that particular moment, like at like 99% of the time, it's not because you did something wrong. It's just because you weren't right for that particular project. And just trust in that, move on, don't take it personally. It's not a measure of your worth as a performer.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's how it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very true. Yeah.
Ma-
Big Pie asks, what was your favorite line recorded for Vice?
Well, I'll say adapt or die was fun. So I'll do that. That's the boring answer. Um, I loved some of the reads, like the Yoru line.
Mm,
I also love the oh good. The brought the good up says valet. Um, yeah, some of those. And I think, okay, here's my final answer. I'm going through it in my head. The one it's like, this is the part where we say this is the part where they say
Yes.
something pithy and we yeah, when someone says something pithy,
Yeah.
that's the one. Like this is the time when someone says something pithy and we pretend to tolerate them. Go ahead. I'll wait.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
That one, breaking the fourth wall and just roasting the players.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
I was seeing some of the
That-
comments when I was taking a look at all the lines, because just taking a look at every single line that Vice has. I was looking at the
Mhm.
comments and everybody's like, she broke the fourth wall. And
Yeah.
it's like, what is this? So I was like, so cool.
Vice
Everybody's up.
does not give a crap about what anybody thinks of her, and I love it. I
Yes.
love it. I love her. The writing from the Riot team was absolutely outstanding. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
it was outstanding. They set me up for success fully.
Yes. Oh,
Like, just yeah,
too good.
you know,
Too
it
good.
was great.
Absolutely. I imagine that. Vice's wife, by the username, asked, what was the first line you recorded for Vice? And did you have any say on how she's designed or how she should be talking like or speaking like?
Oh, I mean, there were so many lines. I don't know which one the first one is. I will say that this fourth wall breaking one was in the earlier stages. And I did actually that one did inform the character for me a lot. Like I through that line I got a much better idea of who she is. Um what the second part of the question
That
was
was, do you had any say on how Vice would be, the design of the Vice, or how
no,
she?
no, no, I
Yeah,
had
of course.
zero say. That's not usually my
Yeah.
my particular I wouldn't say pay grade, but it's not even that. It's like it's not my domain. It's
Mm.
you know, I'm not a
Mm.
designer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, okay, anybody who's acting as a character, they might have like, okay, can you
Hmm.
do it like this? Can you do it like that? But I don't think so. That usually the
I
designers.
think in film, like
Yeah.
camera work, you can have a say in the costume,
Mm.
but in games, no,
No, definitely.
it's not the thing.
Dark Nova asks, how do you balance your voice acting life with your acting life, mocap life, and horse life?
I mean, all the first bits are all wrapped in one.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my acting life.
Right.
I don't get a lot of downtime in the middle of that. I also still have my, you know, VFX work. As not as an artist, as like I consult, because I had been in that industry for a while, and so I just help
Yeah.
other people sort of figure things out. Um, it's it gets busy. I don't get a lot of lie-ins, let me tell you. Like especially with a horse, normally I go sort Urano out in the morning, and because most of the people that I work with are in the States. So when everybody's asleep, I go sort everything out in the morning. It's a nice bit of just going outside, having some fresh air, exercise, you know. Although some days I'm just like, oh, just another 5 minutes. And then the rest of my day, I just try to do everything. I usually record my auditions really late at night, but also because everything gets really quiet and really
Yes.
calm and there's no distractions. So the amount of audition tapes that my agents have gotten that have come in at like 1 a.m, you know, it's probably countless by now. They just expect for me, like they'll see it in the morning. They're fine, it'll be there. But yeah, I've always been a night owl. Even when I was at uni, I would always write my assignments and my essays and whatever else between sort of midnight and 5 a.m. Always. Sponsored. I should have been sponsored by Nescafe, quite frankly.
Oh
The amount
man.
of stuff I consumed.
Mm. I mean, you and I think, are both night owls. I stay
Yeah.
up night. I cannot do early mornings. I don't know how people do that, but I stay up night and I either play something or I'm working on something else. And then I realize it's 5 a.m. I'm like, I should sleep, I guess.
Yeah. It's rough because when I have mocap sessions, they're usually 90% of the mocap work I do is done at Centroid, who are on the opposite side of London from me. And they have a call time because you need to get going, and usually mocap runs to a normal working day, as in the shoot times. You start shooting at 9, like 9 to 6. That means that my call time is 7:30 a.m.
Wow.
It takes me almost 2 hours to get there. And so I'm just like, those are sometimes 4:30 in the morning. I have to get up to be there on time. I try to I have it optimized now so that I can wake about 20 minutes before I have to leave, and then I already have everything set up. I'm still asleep. I grab everything and I just go. But yeah, those are early mornings. That's really rough, especially when I recently did a 4-day shoot. And just 4 consecutive days of those starts. I was just like, next time the client's paying for a hotel nearby because I'm not doing this back and forth.
Oh my
Because
god.
then I don't get home before 8:30, 9 p.m. And it's time to go to bed already. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Wow. Well, I
So,
cannot
yeah.
imagine how crazy it must be. Jeez.
But it's fun. I've spent all day doing something really fun.
Yeah.
It can be really hard and physically hard. And on the third day already, we were all showing signs of oh, we're tired now. But it's still you're tired from doing something fun.
Yeah. You totally feel
So,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Last question from Pablo Hernandez. How were the beginnings in the mocap world for you, and what should one do if they want to get started as well?
Yeah, the mocap world's changed a lot even since I started. And I will say that the mocap world in the UK and then in Europe versus the US are also very different beasts. So it kind of depends on where you're located. I don't know about other areas in the world, but just for the ones that I do know. In the UK, you used to have to be a bit of a jack of all trades. So I have stunt training as well. So, and because I used to be a swimmer, I know some martial arts and some weapons work and all that kind of stuff, all those physical skills and body awareness that I got from ballet and whatnot played into being a very physically versatile performer. But for the most part, I'm not an acrobat. I'm not a free runner. I'm not anything like that. So I just have enough skills to do the jobs, most of the jobs that they needed somebody to act well and then fall over 20 times, and be physically fit enough to do all the locomotion. Locomotions now being locomotion shoots are more and more rare. Locomotion shoots are when you record in-game animations. So outside of the cinematics, it's when when you press right on your controller and the character turns to the right, that had to be a recorded animation. So you're on there and you have a little star of 45 degrees and you record 45-degree increasing increments of how you turn left and right as the character. And you have 1 second or less to complete the turn, because when I press right, I'm not going to wait for the character to be
Yeah.
that's not going to be, it has to be turn that way. And usually you lead with your head.
Yeah. Oh.
Those are more and more rare. And I think the industry is maturing and doing the correct thing, which is a lot of this work is now going to stunt people, stunties. A lot of them are going to people who are actually in the UK on the British stunt register, but you don't have to be on the stunt register to do this work, but it is going more to physical performers as opposed to straight up actors. For actors, they will then bring you in for cinematics, where you will do those moments and they'll have the head cam on you. And in Europe still, as well as the UK, the vast majority of the mocap work you're going to do is going to be to pre-recorded audio. So you're not going to do full performance capture. Somebody else will have recorded the audio, they will play it, and you'll be syncing your movements in a way that makes sense to how it was scripted to move through the environment. And so that's split a lot, and it's also become over the last couple of years sort of the new hotness to do. So the market's become very saturated. I guess what you can do is make sure you are physically fit. You will be on your feet all day. The only time that they're waiting for between take 1 and take 2 is for you to get from your last position back to your first position. So if you're slow, you're the one wasting time. And these volumes are insanely expensive to hire. So people can be quite tense. So yeah, you have to be physically fit. I think work on a repertoire of physical skills, not attributes. Work on your acting. Obviously, you need a certain level of acting ability, and then network. Network so that people start knowing that you are somebody out there with a certain set of skills who wants to do this. And then, through networking, I started off, I've trained with the mocap balls, but that wasn't going to be a guaranteed job. I started off working just for travel expenses with the University of Portsmouth, who have a volume, and they have a big game dev and animation department. And I was like, hey, I'm here. Do any of your students want to work with me? I'm happy to come over and just do whatever. And they're like, yeah, come on over. And I still have a wonderful relationship with them. If they email me, I'd be first one down there, So that's how I got started. Like, you find a way to get in there and sort of hone your craft. Obviously don't just give it away to like major projects for free, but if in an academic setting, that's different. In the US, again, most of the mocap work to like pure mocap work is going to go to stunt people, just because they're more physically prepared for the work. They can work harder for longer. I guess a lot of the performance capture then work that you'd be going after if you're not going for the pure mocap side would be just really get your acting on point. And technically, like, they hire the voice actors very often to go do that. Like, unless the voice actor is so physically distant from the final character that they need something else, they will get the voice actor to come in and do that. The more you can get one person to do, the more consistent the performance.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. So much to know from the mocap world as well. With, stunt people, which I thought it was divided between stunt people and actors. And now it makes sense, like, why stunt people would get more of those.
Now it's kind of divided more. It didn't used to be. It used to be you just had to come in, because there is a technique to performing for mocap. There are certain technological limitations that you need to be aware of. There's a certain size of the performance that is very specific to mocap. That's not too big like theater, but it's not as nuanced as film. It's understanding the limitations of the technology. It's understanding what they're trying to achieve, is understanding how to speak to an animator, because 90% of the time you're not going to have a performance director there. Like, you're going to have somebody who's primarily an animator, so they don't speak actor. They speak animation. So to be able to even have those conversations, ask the questions that they are able to answer, and then filling in the blanks. And it's even better if you know that there's some kind of shortage of a certain ability, and this is something you can train up or already do. For example, in the UK, there's not a lot of women who have like a sort of the right threshold of firearms training. Like, I always say, you go here for sword work and you go to the States for gun work. For example, I'm somebody who has a certain level of firearms training, and that's something that I'll be brought in for. Like, when they need a female, like, human to also look like they know what they're doing and do everything like sort of correctly in that sort of efficient way. with a firearm for that story, you know, I'm one of the people that they'll bring in. But so that gets me more work. But generally, yeah, that's kind of how it's going.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting to know all these tidbits and about all this. But I just want to say thank you so much, Marta, for today, for
Of
joining
course.
me, talking with me about all these games and your love for games, love for metal.
I love.
So cool.
Yeah.
It took a
And
long time.
swords and horses.
Swords, horses, cosplaying, all of it. Final
Yeah.
Fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool. I had a great time, and it was such a wonderful to know about all these aspects, behind the scenes stuff. You being a gamer, getting to be in games, such a cool thing, and I'm so excited to see what's coming next for anything next that we'll be working on, or you're probably already working on. Obviously, cannot say, but it's just exciting to see you in Valorant and all these other games. I just want to say congratulations once again that you're in Valorant, and yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.